You can't tell me that water isn't wet if I've stood out in the rain before. You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
If I've been pushed in a pool before, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that water isn't wet. You know what I mean? And we've both seen the power of what the black dollar can do.
Absolutely.
We've both been a part of it. We've redirected funds. And matter of fact, it made us millionaires. You know, it changed the course of our lives.
Absolutely.
And you told me a story of how kids at the AU Center decided to not drink Coca-Cola and not fly Delta
during apartheid.
And that brought about change in South Africa.
Yes, because Coke and Delta both being out of here, if you get African Americans protesting and not spending money here,
right,
on Coke and Delta in particular,
right,
everybody has to start listening.
That's right.
So divest.
I think that pokes holes in his theory altogether. So I think we have.
Well, you should have him on, because I'm not here to dispute his theory as much to say there are nuances where it often gets explained to me as either or. That's a mythology. But we never talk about what Dr. Amos Wilson talked about, what Dr. John Henrik Clark talked about. We never talked about what Johnson Products did, what Bronner Brothers did, being the owners of production.
Okay.
Right? You know, there was a time where black people didn't buy grease from white folk. You understand what I'm saying? Wasn't no Paul Mitchell sold in the community. Okay. You knew it was coming from Bronner Brothers. You knew it was coming from, and there was a pride in that. Look at the old Soul Train. Yeah. Who's the commercials?
Yeah, you're right.
So we have my grandfather.
Soul Glow.
My grandfather would say exactly.
You know, S-curl.
My grandfather would often say, man, he'd say the worst thing to happen to Negroes is integration. And I used to think
I heard that a lot.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? You light skinned with good health. You know what I'm saying? But what he was talking about was it took dollars. It robbed us of our dollars started escaping and they didn't come back. Yeah. So my grandfather saw a community that was once proudly black. Our gas station, Ms. Barbara, on the Exxon to the left of Douglas. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? My our home loan was from a black bank. He saw that world change, and when the dollar escaped, us becoming more powerless. So my only argument, not even versus Professor Ball, is, well, what is Dr. Walter E. Williams saying, the economist?
Right.
Because he studied capitalism. He's proven himself to be successful. And I'm not saying capitalism is perfect, right? Mm-hmm. But there has been, when there was nothing in our community, it was a young man named Fat Steve.
I know Fat Steve.
Who's a drug kingpin. I just wrote a letter for him and hoping that he gets let out, you know, on an early release, because he's a nonviolent offender.
How much time did he get?
I think they gave him, it's
30 ball?
I think, not 20, I think.
20?
But you know, if you want to write a letter too, I'd love to.
Will.
So with Steve, Steve was the first person to sit me down and say, I own these amount of houses in this community.
Right.
And what, because we was always dreaming about getting out.
Right.
Oh, man, we gonna ball. We gonna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was the first person to help me see value in our community and help me understand the power of a dollar you can be 24 years old and around and own 20 houses in a barbershop and things of that nature. So I'm just saying that our dollar, I believe, is powerful in a way. If organized, though.
It is.
If organized.
All dollars are powerful.
Absolutely.
Anytime. So we speak a lot about voting, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. And I know a lot of people feel like, you know, voting doesn't matter and they already got it in the bag and they're going to do what they want to do anyway. Yeah. Of course.
Voting matters, though.
We agree. We disagree with that emphatically because, you know, hey, man, I'm not saying that the government or the system is beyond treachery.
They are, certainly.
I'm not saying they beyond treachery. Treachery is definitely within their DNA. However, what you learn to do, especially as a chess player, you learn to study your enemy. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And in studying the enemy, or now I won't say the enemy, in studying the opponent.
Yeah.
If you see them taking drastic measures to prevent you from moving a certain direction,
you might want to lean into
that direction. You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I'm not trusting their altruism. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching the moves that they make, and by process of elimination saying, hey, if they want to keep me from doing this, maybe we should get to doing this. You get what I'm saying? Because it could be effective. This shit could be exactly what they need us not to do in order for them to carry out their plan without fail. But every time you spend $1 on a product, you're voting.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're voting for a corporation. If you go buy some Nikes, you just voted for Nike. If you buy some Yeezys, you voted for Adidas. And we've seen black people turn corporations into billion-dollar corporations turn individuals into billionaires.
Yeah, we made Nike.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we made Nike. We built that corporation. You know?
And when we built Nike, they built Jordan, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
And now it's gotten to the point where now Jordan can pull in Drake or Travis Scott. See what I'm saying?
I mean, look at the brilliant brothers. Like Chris Paul is a brilliant brother who's a Jordan guy, right? Chris is the guy who's been wearing the HBCU, early in the playoffs. Like, just brilliant.
Right.
Look at what a dollar provided. In terms of an athlete that's going back to a HBCU now. That's what I want black people to understand. You don't have to have a victimization relationship with money.
Right.
That's what Greenwood is really saying. You don't have to have a predatory relationship with money in which check cashing places are taking it, or the bank that you bank with has a 21% turn down rate with black people with home loans or car loans, or has an even smaller amount in terms of small business. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have the opportunity to focus our dollars a weapon. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about that.
Right.
He said, even before you focus on politics, focus on that dollar.
Right.
And I want to tell people in terms of the matters of importance of census and voting.
Okay.
I know who my great-grandparents are because I knew them. My
Right.
great-grandmother lived till I was 10. I physically knew them. Her mother, who had been born a slave, died a free woman. I knew the daughter of a slave, right?
Damn.
I know my great-grandfather's father, who was also a slave, because he showed up on a census. He was brought out of, his father or grandfather were brought out of, his grandfather, actually, I know, was brought out of South Carolina as a slave sale. So if it not for the U.S. Census, I wouldn't be able to trace those roots back to Tuskegee, Alabama.
And that's something that you find a lot of importance in, the census.
I do.
And
it's
you've been preaching it to me. You've been preaching it to me. I ain't feel now.
Give them the raw. This is me. This is how old I am. This is my wife and children. This is how old we are. This is where and that's it.
Okay.
I don't give them any. I give them exactly what my granddaddy gave them.
Okay.
I'm Willie Burke Sherwood. I'm a Negro, a black, or whatever y'all calling y'allself this year. It's 3 children, 1 12, 1 8, 1 7. My wife is Betty, and that was it. That's all they got.
Slam the dough.
But came with his boxes on. You know what I mean? So he wasn't gonna stay. So with Burke, I learned. He was almost probably libertarian in his views, minus the racism that Hannity displays on a nightly. But I'm glad I grew up into those radical ideologies because my grandmother would have been into reading, the mythology of black and propaganda of black power. My grandfather would have been watching Walt D. Williams on the VCR because he was functionally illiterate because he had to work. Damn. He understood the power of a dollar. My grandpa Bunch and my grandpa Willie, both, they read, like I read to them, that was important, but they put money on the table and said, count this.
Right.
And it was important, and to the point where, running around, you learn to count in your head.
That's right. That's what I do to my kid. They can't believe, like, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of put numbers together in my head. Especially percentages.
Yeah, because it was before the trap.
15% off and it's $800.
Absolutely.
You dig what I'm saying?
And
we
have
to be able to come up with that.
Absolutely. And voting is important. Well, why, Michael? Because once you do your census, instead of saying it's 10 people in this block, it says it's 25.